As I said, my name is Kristen Mon, and I'm the housing coordinator for the City of Tulsa. Very briefly, I want to tell you about a couple programs at the City of Tulsa for landlords and property managers. The first is the Abode Initiative. This is a resource where landlords can receive information and updates about resources and educational opportunities, like this webinar, to learn about the Scor3card Program at Sustainable Tulsa and how it can benefit their business. We also send out regular updates on things like the CDC eviction moratorium and emergency rental assistance. There's no cost to participate, and you will also be able to respond back to us to request any assistance that you might need with other resources. To participate, please just send an email to me at kmaun@cityoftulsa.org. Though you may have heard that the City of Tulsa has been having some technology issues today. So temporarily, please feel free to email me at kmaun.tulsa@gmail.com. The other program I would like to tell you about is the City of Tulsa's Gold Star Landlord Program, which is a free program that provides rewards and incentives for landlords participating and engaging in the best rental practices. That includes participating in the Abode Initiative and the Tulsa Health Department's Safe and Healthy Homes Program. In return for participating in this free and voluntary program, landlords receive rewards and incentives, including prioritized processing of the applications to the City of Tulsa's Emergency Rental Assistance Program. If you want to learn more about it, you can visit www.cityoftulsa.org/landlords, or feel free to email goldstar@cityoftulsa.org. And of course, temporarily, please feel free to reach out to me at kmaun.tulsa@gmail.com. Thank you very much. And I will now turn it over to Teresa and Corey to tell you all about Sustainable Tulsa's Scor3card Program.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Teresa Kerrigan. I am the Scor3card manager here at Sustainable Tulsa. We also have Corey Wren-Williams, who is the executive director of Sustainable Tulsa, with us here today. And Corey is going to kick us off talking about Sustainable Tulsa and the Scor3card.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate this opportunity to visit with you, and eager to hear your questions as well and how we might be able to help you today. Again, I'm Corey Williams, Executive Director of Sustainable Tulsa, and I just wanted to briefly introduce ourselves before Teresa shared more deeply about our Scor3card program. But Sustainable Tulsa is a nonprofit here located in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we got our start early in 2000. And in 2015, we started a program called the Business to Business Case for Sustainability series. And then shortly thereafter kicked off the Scor3card program based on a request from our members wanting to understand better how they can track and manage their sustainability strategies. Our mission, as you can see there on the left-hand side of your screen there, is really looking at that triple bottom line of people, profit, and planet. We provide those tools and educational resources, but we're really looking when it comes to people, profit, and planet is that quality of life, environmental stewardship, and that savings. But Teresa's going to talk about the context of the Scor3card and how it could benefit you and your business. So Teresa.
Thank you, Corey. So the Scor3card itself consists of 4 major components. One of them is the online tool. It's based on a Salesforce platform. That means that you can access it anywhere securely. And that includes your mobile phone, your tablet, wherever it is that you work best, either on the road or in your office at your desktop. The online tool is where members enter quantitative and qualitative data into the tool for tracking purposes. It's also where they find the resources that I will go into a little bit later. We also have a coaching program that I'll talk a little bit about further down the road, that further in the presentation rather. Our coaches are local professionals, local to the business professionals who are trained in not only sustainability, but in the tool. Many of them are professionals who use the tool themselves for their own businesses, and some of them have been coaches for years. We pair coaches with businesses based on the coach's expertise and the business's stated goals. Acknowledgement is at the end of each annual Scor3card cycle. In addition to a plaque and public recognition. The score is something that businesses can use to publicize their achievements in this area, to celebrate their successes. There is also an opportunity to share the business's stories in these areas of people, profit, and planet during the Bellman Awards, which you'll see a little bit about later. We also host educational workshops throughout the year to support businesses in their sustainability journey and in the scorecard itself within the tool. These take the form of business-to-business networking events and lectures, presentations by other business professionals about what they have done in the realm of sustainability and how you can implement it yourself. These also include, during the scorecard cycle, monthly presentations. These are scorecard work days where we have an expert come in and talk about an aspect of the scorecard and how it applies to business. It's an opportunity to ask questions. It's an opportunity to meet with other scorecard members and network that way, as well as to learn about new aspects of sustainability that are coming online. This is how the scorecard is structured. The directives and items are separated into 7 categories that you see here on your left: communication and promotion, community resilience. This is also community involvement, healthy work environment. There are your ergonomics, air quality, that sort of thing, material management. This is your solid waste piece, transportation, energy, and water. There are 54 directives and 80 key performance indicators within the tool currently. These are, of these 54 directives, 13 are cornerstones that you see on the right-hand side. These 13 cornerstones are the baseline in order to be verified in the system each year. And above that, they are optional. We encourage companies to explore them, look at the resources that are presented, and some of those resources will help you tell the story of sustainability and see how it relates to your business. The key performance indicators, sorry, while I'm on the slide, are the quantitative measures that we track year over year and are reportable out. The directives are also reportable out, but they wouldn't be chartable because they are the qualitative information. So this is kind of how a company gets started using Scorecard. Like I said, you sign up, you get a coach to help. There are resilient community and employee engagement items within the tool that you get points for as you follow the cornerstones to get started that helps structure your sustainability team and process for success. Like I said, cornerstones as a guide and resource links on each item. So this is kind of the baseline. And I'll point this out in the tool in just a minute. We'll hop in there. If you're a little further on in your sustainability journey, or you want to utilize the tool a little more heavily, there are options. Like I said, the key performance indicators, how you want to utilize those is up to you. Reporting out across multiple sites, across multiple years in the Salesforce platform is, many of you may be familiar with already, but is pretty straightforward and highly manipulable. So you can see it however works best for your business. The Global Reporting Index is also, Global Reporting Index tracking is also cross-indexed in the system. I'll show you how that works. And the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals tracking helps companies to understand where they kind of fit in the big picture and tell stories to their marketing audiences about why this is important. Before Corey talks about our sponsors, I'm going to hop over into the tool for just a minute. This is a sample account. So when our members log in, this is what they see. This is where they start. Some of the things I'm talking about today can be found here in the membership guide. This includes how scores are calculated. We're very transparent about that. The things the verification team is looking for, how to best utilize a coach. These sorts of things can be found in the membership guide, and it's always there as a reference. This is where you would click to see your scorecards, and we'll hop in that in just a minute. But I want to show you some of the resources that are available. I have this sorted by cornerstones because that's where a lot of businesses like to start. And Let's start with energy. Benchmarking energy use is something we can all relate to. So for each of the 54 directives within Scorecard, there is a page like this, full of resources. This is the question you're being asked to respond to in 1,000 characters or less, and you would respond to that within your scorecard. But these are the resources you can use when you are trying to address this question for your business. So I don't know if this is too small for some people. I know some of us have different screens. This says benchmark your organization's energy use using EPA Energy Star Portfolio or a comparable program. Summarize those results and what actions ensued. So we have, to go along with that, the quantitative record of a key performance indicator in MMBTUs, which I'm sure this audience knows particularly well as a measure of heating and cooling energy use, as well as kilowatt hours. So you can track those year over year and across multiple locations. We have the tips to achieve, how to create and implement a plan related to this particular item, but again, for each item within the scorecard, and how to kind of educate your users and team about how to utilize this item to its maximum potential. We also have over here on the right-hand side, those global reporting index equivalents that I mentioned. So here it's about energy consumption, management approaches, and those can be explored. The UN Sustainable Development Goals are excellent for understanding how industry utilizes this metric and what it means for your business as well as for your community as a whole. So you can click through the links on the from within the scorecard, and it will take you to a page like this for each of those links. Storytelling, infographics, whatever it is that you need for your business to either help your team understand how they fit into the big picture, or like I said, relate that back to business practices and business promotion. So there are the UN Sustainable Development Goals, responsible consumption, sustainable cities, how all of that fits together. We also have the item resources. Like you saw in the description, we said benchmark your organization's energy use using EPA Energy Star Portfolio. So here's the link to EPA Energy Star Portfolio. And it takes you to the page that not only has the portfolio, but also looks through, what is it? How does it work? How can I utilize this for my company? And how does this result in savings? So when we talk about the triple bottom line, the reason there's a 3 in scorecard is about people, profit, and planet. That acknowledgement that in order for a business to continue to do good work, they need to be profitable, and ways that we can help you maximize that. The resources here in the tool are for you to develop that aspect as well as the others for your business. We also mentioned here in the prompt a comparable program. So we've got a couple of comparable programs here. This is THG. This is a local business that helps companies to benchmark their energy use and resource use across the board, if that's something that you want to hire out. We also have how to do this for buildings, particularly pertinent to this audience today. But how do we go about benchmarking this? What is it? And what are the state and local solutions that have been implemented elsewhere? How did they develop this? And how can you do the same thing? Does anybody have any questions about the tool or about anything I've talked about so far? Okay. Please also feel free to put questions in the chat if you have something that you want us to address as a panel later. When you log in to your scorecard, like I said, you'll see all of your locations here listed. And this sample, I only have a main location, a subsidiary location, so I can show you how that reports out. And you'll also be able to see previous year's scorecards. Those will say completed and scored. So you'll be able to reference them in coming years if that's something that's important to you and your team. It's also an impactful way to show meaningful progress. It also makes it easier to fill out your scorecard next year. If something like a company policy was developed really thoughtfully the previous year, it can be reviewed, and if it doesn't need to be updated, then it can just be copied over into this year's scorecard. Actually, let's hop into benchmarking energy use so you can see both sides, the resource side and the entry side of the same coin here. This happens occasionally. It is a result of Salesforce heavily caching, and that makes the user experience a little bit better, but occasionally results in that refreshing it fixes it. So this is where you can assign tasks to your team. They'll receive an email with a link to this particular item. This is also, you can see some of those tips to achieve from earlier. Resource links, like we talked about, also appear here. This is where you will enter your 1,000 character or less response to this prompt. Here's where you track whether it's in process, whether you completed it already, or if something does not apply to you or that particular location, you can mark it as does not apply. These are things that are physically impossible to accomplish. You don't have a fleet, and the question is asking you about a fleet, then you would pick does not apply. Those do get reviewed as well to maintain the integrity of the verification, but they are something that is an option for businesses. And I think that's important for people to know about. This is where you would track your KPIs so you can see year-over-year changes, keep track of that. We never share data with the public about individual companies without the express permission of the company, and that usually involves storytelling during the awards programming. But if you do not want your information to be shared even in aggregate with other companies, everybody in the scorecard, we would say, you'll see a little bit later, if there are 12,000 hours, more than 11,000 hours in volunteer hours logged last year by scorecard members in the tool. If you, for some reason, want an aspect of your scorecard to be private to your company only and not shared in those aggregate numbers, you can go ahead and click this. We find that some users start by clicking this box and then they complete their scorecard. They find they're doing better than they thought they were, and they come in and they uncheck it. But that is entirely up to you and your business. This helps us to know which actions were a result of Sustainable Tulsa Scorecard in particular. Sometimes people identify water savings, or they identify new ways to do things, and we like to know about that. It helps us improve scorecard. And then here is where you would help us understand if you're unable to accomplish something, it's an opportunity for you to explain to the verifiers why that's the case, which helps them assess you fairly. In future years, so we have, for this example, we don't have a previous year, but in future years, a company can see their past year's results. So the item is verified, it'll say yes, it'll tell them how many key performance indicator points they got here, and comments from the verifier. This can help companies continue to improve their scorecard over time, and also help their team feel good about the things that they did well. I'm going to hop out of the tool and back into our presentation so Corey can talk to you a little bit about our sponsors. Corey?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Teresa. Yeah, just to kind of give you, I'm sure you recognize several of these companies, but these are companies that have supported us, either getting our start or continuing to support us. And many of them are also scorecard members. But next slide. And these are our scorecard participants now, and I think it's important to kind of acknowledge small to large businesses, government entities, tribes, higher ed, and so forth. So really quite a diverse group of entities that are participating, and we now have locations in 5 states and 13 cities. Mostly in Oklahoma, but in these other states as well. So it's just to give you an idea, context of the growth that we're having and kind of who's participating. And if you know anybody at those locations, you can reach out to them as well about their own experience. But so I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of see who is participating. You can also see this list on our website. But next slide. Okay, back to you, Teresa.
So these are some of the things that companies that use the scorecard tell us that scorecard does for them. increasing efficiency and waste reduction. Obviously, you can't manage what you aren't measuring, what you aren't tracking year over year. These increases in efficiency are captured that way. They're also captured through efficiencies suggested in the tool, specifically in the platform we just looked at. Boosting employee productivity and retention, having people take pride in their workplace, not just as a result of working for a company that is interested in benchmarking their sustainability and improving it, but also being how that is part of the scorecard in terms of that people component. And so we help businesses understand how better to help their employees feel good about their workplace and to be healthier in it. Improving the top and bottom line clearly through savings, through identification, through tracking, simplifying and organizing corporate responsibility initiatives. This is an up and coming thing. I know many of you have heard about environmental social governance reporting and the way that investors are increasingly looking at those metrics. This is a way to help your company along that path and to assist in that reporting. This system, the scorecard, does some of that reporting, but also supports other platforms that do something more robust, for instance, for reporting to governing bodies, the SEC, that sort of thing. So we are here to support you on your journey towards that as well. Transparency with stakeholders, clearly being able to report out and track year over year across multiple locations, very important. Greater competitive advantage, stronger risk management, and improved brand reputation are some of the other feedback we get. These are results. I was talking about the aggregate results from the most recently completed cycle that's been scored. So that was in the previous cycle was 2019 to 2020. Like I said earlier, more than 11,000 volunteer hours tracked across Oklahoma nonprofits. Demand side energy efficiency programs recommended specifically by Scorecard from within the tool. Members reported annual savings in 2019 of more than $2 million. That brings total scorecard savings to over $7 million. Planet. Carbon offsets in the most recently completed cycle totaled more than 11 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. This is the equivalent of more than 2,000 wind turbines running for an entire year, more than 1 million homes' energy use for an entire year, and 3.5 million tons of waste recycled instead of landfilled. So you can see the collective impact. And also Scorecard is a way that you can measure your collective impact as a business or suite of businesses. I mentioned the Bellman Awards earlier. This is an opportunity to be recognized in the community very publicly. Fox News has done is it Fox 6, Corey? Jill?
Sorry, Fox 23, yes.
Fox 23, my apologies, has done these videos for us in the past, and they allow companies to tell a specific aspect, to celebrate a specific aspect of their sustainability journey. What's pictured here is Spirit Aerosystems. They did a cadmium recapture as part of their manufacturing process, but we also have office buildings. The smallest one, Corey was looking at the list of current members, and our largest member has 8 locations across 5 states and is a national organization, national business. The smallest one is here in Tulsa. It is 5 people at their office. It's a microbiology lab. So we have all different sorts of businesses participating, and we like to celebrate each of them to recognize not just the big fish, but those who are making progress from year to year and those who are making a difference in their community. Corey's going to talk to us a little bit about the programming that helps support Scorecard and Sustainable Tulsa here.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, that's part of what this program is about, is continue education and support, because our goal is education toward action. We want to help with providing those tools and resources so that you can act in a way that supports what your efforts are, your goal, your journey. So next slide, please. So one of our programs we have is the Monarch Education. This is where we collaborate with 8 other organizations in the Tulsa area around this particular species, the monarch. But the reason is it's an important pollinator, it's an indicator species, and a lot of landscaping might involve different types of plants that would support the Monarch initiative. I know that the mayor signed the Monarch Pledge a year or so ago, so there's definitely a lot of effort to do that. And I just think it's important to share that there's a concerted effort of many organizations wanting to support that. And you can also get a point in Scorecard establishing a monarch garden. So next slide, please. And we just had a program, the next slide may indicate that, first Thursday. Yes, our last first Thursday was on Monarch. So, and those are all recorded. They're free to attend. They are at the noon hour on the first Thursday of every month. And during the pandemic, we moved to all virtual for the program, but we will get back in person eventually for these as well, or at least go with a hybrid approach soon. But we average somewhere around that 90 attendees, even online as well. And it's great to see that it's providing that resource, continuing education around sustainability. Our next one coming up is June 3rd. It'll be on environmental justice. We have someone coming out of Emily Pinkney will be coming out of Washington to talk about environmental justice. And it'll be online, of course, free to attend, but we'll also be acknowledging the 100-year recognition of the Tulsa Race Massacre. So we'll be, it kind of will lead in with some of that programming. So we'll also be posting about that. But first Thursday, free to attend, a variety of topics. We hope that you can join us. And next slide, please. The other program we have, I mentioned earlier when I was talking about kind of how we got our start, is our B2B Case for Sustainability series. And this is where we're talking really to the business owner about different ways that they can manage themselves. It saves on the bottom line, improves employee engagement, and also is helps you on that journey of being a better environmental steward or managing your material waste and things like that, and reducing those. Our next one will be August 26th. It'll be on ESG reporting. Teresa mentioned that earlier, environmental social governance. And that's where a lot of businesses are going toward this, to kind of look at what the risk is by not addressing environmental issues, social issues, or their own governance. So look out for that one. But we'll also, before that, in June, we'll be celebrating all the Scorecard participants. So it's another good way to kind of get a sense. And yes, I'll pass the mic back over to Teresa about these different programs coming up.
So Corey covered most of it. We are very excited to have any of you who would like to attend our B2B programming series as our guest for the first one. Usually they are $25 for non-members, but we would love to have you attend. Please go ahead and email me or Corey if you would be interested in that. Upcoming dates of interest. We have a webinar with the Nature Conservancy coming up on May 13th, followed by that environmental justice webinar that Corey was talking about. Scorecard final event this year will be June 24th. This is where we celebrate the stories and talk about collective impact. That's something we would also like to invite you to as our guest if you're interested in seeing what some local businesses are doing. Like I said, Corey said, B2B on environmental social governance reporting and the importance of that, how it relates to different kinds of businesses. Sustainable Tulsa Recharge in the autumn, followed by those Bellman Award winners and publicizing their successes and their stories.
And Teresa, may I jump in real quickly? The webinar that's coming up on the 13th is actually, the purpose of it is it's okay to talk climate in Oklahoma. So a Nature Conservancy over the last year has been doing a lot of listening sessions talking about climate change with lots of different industries. And boy, if you have an interest in that, if you're trying to find out how that you can talk to your constituents or even your family, anyone about this topic, they've done the research, and Brad Carl that will be offering this webinar. He's just wonderful. He used to be actually Fox 23 meteorologist, and now he works for the Nature Conservancy on this project. So just a wealth of information. That is free to attend, but it is capped at a certain number that can attend. So if that interests you, please reach out. And then also on the B2B, I want to make sure it was clear that that Teresa is inviting you as our guest. So it's free to attend as our guest at the next one coming up. So just reach out and let us know. All right. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. I'd like to take questions from anybody who has them about Scorecard, about Sustainable Tulsa. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so we can see each other face to face.
And actually, if questions aren't formulating yet, I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves and kind of what you do. We didn't really do that at the beginning. So I'd love to go around the room and see. I see L. Anderson. If you would love to introduce yourself, we'd love to hear about you.
Okay, I'm Ladina Anderson. I'm the Director of Property Management with the Mental Health Association. And Greg Shin asked us to attend today just to kind of figure out what's going on. We own and manage a little over 1,400 apartment units here in Tulsa. So some of the energy conservation stuff that you were talking about kind of interests me a lot because most of our units are all bills paid.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Lindsay.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Lindsay McAteer. I'm the Assistant Director of Property Management for the Mental Health Association.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm also tagging along to learn about the program.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And Branson, sorry.
Hi, it's Branson. I am a data analyst with Oklahoma Policy Institute, and I'm just listening along to better understand the program.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
HBSY Properties.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm just a landlord for pretty much Section 8. So the sustainability due to the energy is one of my main focus to help reduce my expense and increase my cash flow. So that was one of the reasons why I'm interested.
Great. Well, thank you for joining. And, I think on that, there are, of course, the scorecard can help with that. And Teresa could show more on the energy management piece if you all wanted to see. But there are some incentives and resources there at PSO if you haven't checked that out. And they're a big supporter and participant with us. So lots of great information there on their demand side program, ways to cut back on energy use, but also and some incentives. I know one of our smaller members that won the Bellman Award a couple years ago did a lot of those practices, did a lot of those reduction LED lighting. They did some changing with their air conditioner. I think they painted the roof white. They did several things, many things, but they saved $30,000 at their facility based on those energy kind of performances. And so they got to reinvest that $30,000 somewhere else. And that was through PSO. And they found out about the program through Scorecard and found out other ways that they could do to manage that. So lots of great information like that you would find at a B2B or through the Scorecard program. But just wanted to kind of emphasize that since many of you mentioned items around energy. So back to Teresa's original question. Do you have questions?
I know the zoo also has some really good reporting out about the water savings that they have realized as a result of tracking their water use over time and being able to identify leaks as a result of that active tracking using the resources within Scorecard in order to identify what is a trend versus what is seasonal variation in use, that sort of thing. And they love to talk about that.
Yeah, actually, there is a couple of funny stories with the zoo. They used to be owned by the city, and now there's still a relationship with the city. I think they were parents, now they're cousins or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, you know, they used to manage all the energy and pay for those bills. But when it became the zoo's responsibility, they said, well, we should probably identify all of our, you know, location, energy, and where electricity outlets and water and things like that. Well, what they identified was that they'd been paying some light way out south and had been tagged onto their account. So they started to get to know themselves a little better, cut some costs, realized they'd been paying tariffs they shouldn't have been paying, got a rebate there. And on the water use, they kind of back to Teresa's point, some of the stuff is seasonal. They know they use a lot of water, so it was assumed, it makes sense that they would have a big water bill. But there was a leak that they fixed in 24 hours after identifying. There was one of the, there was a big leak. And then also, I think it was the Flamingo area where, you know, they assumed there was water going all the time, but that was where there was also another leak there. And then there was a communication error of how much water to use, and flushing out the sea lion exhibit, how often they were supposed to do that. And it just been a poor communication. In the end, they saved $13,000 on their water bill by identifying leaks and improving communication. So especially you're talking about managing all these different locations, you know, really just making sure you don't have any leaks. It's a really easy way to waste money. You just don't see it. It's just, so that's a good point. And I think ORU had a similar situation. So if you're managing a lot of land mass and landscaping, that is an important thing to identify. But the zoo story it's a good story though. it ended in a good result. They made some money at the end of that. So
I'm happy to answer questions about anything you see in Scorecard. I'm going to go ahead and open it up so we can take a look at cornerstones. Those are something people often ask about as they're getting into the scorecard for the first time. So like we said, starting these 13 items within the 54 are required in order to be verified. That includes all of Cornerstone 1, all of Cornerstone 2, and then you get to choose 3 items of these within Cornerstone 3 and 3 items from within Cornerstone 4. And so that's to help you set your own goals and do what's appropriate for your business. Also, starting with Cornerstone 1 can help companies structure their team. To show you how this works for Cornerstone 1, starting at the very beginning, to build a diverse employee-led team is the directive to champion a culture of sustainability in your organization. Provide a list of their names and titles within the organization and indicate the frequency of team meetings. So that right there are your 2 KPI points and part of Cornerstone 1. That is where we recommend people start. We have supporting documentation about delegating authority, how to form a team, how to inventory that, how to revise the team year over year, how to build partnerships, that sort of thing here. And then you can see the rest of Cornerstone 1 is also helping set you up for success. So here's the team, here's the statement, and then updating your internal staff saying, we have this statement. And that's Cornerstone 1. Cornerstone 2 is that benchmarking energy use, benchmarking health and safety, solid waste and water use. So I know these are things that either you are already doing sometimes as a business or things that you want to do and be able to track more closely. So there are resources, like I said, on the each and every one of these for how to do that, best practices, what are other companies doing?
Teresa, excuse me, this is Ladina. I have a question. Okay, you said that this is all built in Salesforce. To use this tool, would we have to have licenses for Salesforce? Because this is not a system that we use right now.
Right, we take care of that for you. You sign up as a member and it is custom programming on top of a Salesforce platform. And so we take care of all the licenses and that sort of thing. We manage that for you.
Okay, thank you.
The back side of it, if you need a password reset, you call me and I take care.
All right, thank you.
Excellent question though. I should clarify that when I'm doing the presentation. Thank you for asking. Corey, you're on mute.
Another thing is that by participating like on the B2Bs or part of the scorecard community, we have scorecard work days for just our scorecard members where we'll bring in, for instance, this last year we added 4 new items: diversity, equity, inclusion, gender equity, circularity, and materiality. So those 4 new items were based on reviewing annual review of our program. So then we brought in experts to talk about those items and what resources are in the community we're supporting that. And that, I think that is an important component of this. This is a network of individuals and businesses and entities that will support your journey. And that's the thing that we've seen, you know, I know we bring up the MONARCH program and it seems maybe to some maybe insignificant, but it is very significant on many ways where we have companies that are working on all these very important business or energy management systems and things like that. But often planting those gardens can be a very galvanizing program. And we have companies, entities within our network that can help install those. And so they want to do business with each other, or there's a lighting program. So you see a lot of that where you start to build confidence and relationships with different companies that, you know, are also doing the scorecard programs. You know, they're looking at their sustainability efforts and understand what you're looking for as well. So it becomes a community. And I think that's important to kind of acknowledge here as well. Kristen, was there anything in particular you were hoping we might cover as well, just kind of knowing your community and some of the questions that come to you?
I think you've done an excellent job of covering it. And I think that this is such a fantastic resource because, as you heard the questions here today, most frequently what I get asked about is things around energy efficiency and ways that they can be both sustainable and good for our planet while lowering their bottom line. But also when they're able to reduce those costs, those savings also get passed on to their tenants. So I know particularly for those who do affordable housing, whether it's Section 8 or things like that, when they can reduce those costs, they're better able to serve tenants, particularly low-income tenants. So I'm just so glad that Sustainable Tulsa has been able to present this as a tool and resource that landlords and property managers that can use not just for their business, but particularly for the affordable housing business as a resource.
Yeah, and actually you bring up a good point also. Your tenants would be invited to participate in our programs too. Their first Thursday is free and open to the public. So as you start to share more of a sustainability culture that you're wanting to have in that building, have you know, that is something also just to let them know they can participate. They are online right now. They have access to the ability to watch online. There is that. So, you know, if they start asking you questions about sustainability and things like that, that's there. Also on our website is living, we didn't mention that today, but Oklahoma Green Living. So all kinds of resources are there for if you had a tenant that was asking you questions, you could direct them to our website on those things as well. So I'm glad to help in that way. And yeah, I think, oh yeah, it looks like Teresa put something in the chat there for you. And so, yeah, and also, yeah, so are there any other questions? And we're also okay to gift back 14 minutes if if that's what everybody would like as well. But we're here if there's any more questions.
Okay, I just have one question. Could you send us your presentation? At least that way I could pass it on to Greg, my supervisor, and he could see it. And plus that, I think you have information in there that he may be interested in.
Yeah, we might, yeah, we can definitely send you a version, if not the whole thing. And
Okay.
And we're also glad to also represent. We do a lot of presentations. So if we need, we've been known to present 3 or 4 times to one team before they decided to join Scorecard, and some didn't. So we're okay to, you know, present multiple times if that helps your team.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Absolutely. I also stuck our email addresses in the chat. Please do feel free to reach out to Corey or myself with any questions you have.
Yeah. And if you want to hear from Brad Carl this week, that's another opportunity to visit about It's Okay to Talk Climate in Oklahoma. And he's just a great, he talks also about just how to talk about hard conversations, not just climate, but it could be utilized in multiple ways. So in multiple conversations, and just, I think he does a great job. So if that interests you, that is coming up on Thursday. Okay.
Thank you, Kristen, for having us today, for hosting us, and thank you all for coming to be here today.
Yes,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
Thank you.
everyone for participating.
Right. You guys have a great week, and reach out if you have any other questions for us. All right. Thanks. Bye.